Let's go through Wednesday's action in the NBA. There were 6 games on. We'll talk about everything that we need to know about through those games, some news updates, awards, lines of the night, and Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and what if he shot you in the face? I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Grammarly. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at grammarly.com/podcast. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms. Go give it a thumbs up. Thanks for doing it. Subscribe, bell, notifications, all that stuff. Really appreciate it. This is the last time I'm going to ask this. This vote ends today. My partner has been nominated for an award, the Changemakers Award. The vote ends in about 6 hours or so, midnight Australian time today, and I'd love for her to be able to get the win. She does a lot of important work with her psychology practice, doing a lot of work with giving out free therapy sessions to underprivileged groups, minority groups, so many different groups of people, and a lot of work in sort of trying to change corporate culture as well. With attitudes towards those things. So I'm going to drop the link to that in the show notes, in the description of the video. And if you guys could go and vote and get her over the line, it would be awesome. Appreciate that a lot if you would do that. If you could do that, of course you don't have to, but I think it's a worthy cause, and I want her to win. All right, so we're going to talk about the games on Wednesday. There were only 6 of them, a pretty low volume Wednesday, as the schedule's been a little bit whack over the last Did I just say wacky? I did. Over the last week, hasn't been going particularly well. In terms of my choice of words, but also the schedule's been just different. We just got to get used to that. But now the rest of this week, it's all low volume days. It's all streaming days, and that's important for us when we're talking fantasy. Let's have a look at some news across the NBA. What do we need to know about here? We've got updates on a lot of different players, didn't we? We got DeAndre Ayton. They said that he's day-to-day. I don't know. I don't think he's going to play the next game. They haven't immediately given us a significant diagnosis, but I think I get the feeling that they might say day-to-day and then like, oh no, actually it's going to be longer. Just keep an eye on that. It's okay to stream in Reith or even Walker for deeper leagues in the short term, and we just don't know about Ayton. What we do know is that Denny Avdia is questionable for tomorrow for the Wizards, while Bilal Coulibaly has been ruled out again, so Corey Kispert's value goes up. They ruled Kevin Love out as well, and then there was some confusion with Bradley Beal. There was a tweet from a Suns reporter that said both Beal and Nurkic were doubtful. Not really sure where he got it from, but he tweeted it out. The official report says Beal is questionable. Now, they have a weekend back-to-back, so I wouldn't be shocked if Beal sits Thursday and then Beal sits Saturday and plays on Sunday with his hamstring issue. Nurkic is actually probable, so I don't know where that came from. So if Beal, Gordon, and Nurkic all play, we'll have to see what sort of impact that has on someone like Bol, who played good minutes the last couple of games. We also got updates yesterday on the Knicks, but I didn't really talk about it at length on the main recap show. We heard Shams say that OG Anunoby was 2 to 3 weeks away, and then we heard troubling news on Julius Randle. I thought it was troubling. I'm not sure everyone else thought it was as troubling as I did. But the fact that we've got an idea with Anunoby, it's 2 to 3 weeks, and then it was like, Randle, yeah, he still hopes to get back this season. I go, what? What do you mean he still hopes to get back this season? My understanding was that he was doing the rehab and we'd get something to that in a week or so. The fact that he's like, yeah, like maybe I play or maybe I'm out until June is a definite worry. Now, I know that would mean that surgery is on the table, and if he has that surgery, he is done for the year. The way that was worded was a little bit annoying to me. It was not annoying, a little bit frightening. I'm not really frightened by it, but yeah, a little bit like, oh, that's bad. The fact that he's like, yeah, I hope I can play. Like, that's not good. We'll get hopefully more information on that soon. And then the Mitchell Robinson one makes me think that maybe he sneaks back for a couple of regular season games, but nothing coming up at any point soon. Brunson's questionable for tomorrow, and Hartenstein is available to play. The other one is Andy Wiggins, who missed the last couple of games, or missed the last game with a personal issue. He's out tomorrow with a personal issue. And Steve Kerr didn't give a time frame, but it sounds like it might be more than just tomorrow. Don't know if it'll be as long as what the 20 or so games that he missed last season for personal reasons, but it doesn't appear like it's going to be just 2 games. So, yeah, Wiggins obviously had a disaster season. He had a disaster season last season. If we can get a little bit more info on it, it'd be great, but they didn't give any info on it last season, even in terms of timeframes. So if we see Wiggins miss like 4 or 5 here, and even if he wanted to move on earlier, he's not good enough to hold through uncertainty. If you wanted to drop, I would understand doing that. It would make complete sense, actually, given the uncertainty, the history, and what level of a player he is. And the level of player he is not very good, unfortunately for him. All right, let's go into the games. First one, Pelicans Pacers was the first game up, and we did get a lineup change here because Christian James and McCollum returned, and that meant Trey Murphy moved to the bench. We also had Ingram and Zion, who were dealing with questionable tags, but everybody played. So Trey went back into his bench role. It wasn't enough. The Pacers win 123-114, the final score here. Ingram, 29 minutes, 30 and 6 in those 29 minutes. CJ, 34 in his return, 23 and 6 with 5 threes. And Zion had 23, 3 and 4. Unfortunately, he was bad from the line, but overall good numbers. But we've got to be very, very concerned about Jonas Valanciunas. He played 7 minutes in the first half, never returned. Wasn't injured. They just didn't like the matchup. And we've said this, that if someone is out, if one of the starters is out, they need to lean more on Jonas for his defensive ability. For his offensive scoring. When they're all healthy, well, he'd been getting under 20 minutes a night, and today was an extreme example. Scoreless in 7 minutes with 3 rebounds. I'm not dropping Jonas Valanciunas. I am in 8-team leagues. And in 10, I'm getting close to that because he's 144th over the last 2 weeks in 21 minutes. And the uncertainty is frustrating. If we knew that they were healthy, he would be a drop. But we just don't know that they're going to be that way all the way through. Larry Nance played 23 minutes. He had 6 and 6 there. While Herb Jones, we knew there was going to be some sort of a slowdown at some point. It came here. He had 14 points on 56% still, but the volume was down and he didn't get any defensive stats, which had been running absolutely red hot. While Trey Murphy was good. The 7 assists were a real surprise, to be sure. He had 11 points in 31 minutes. The 31 minutes for Murphy, with everyone healthy, granted, Ingram played only 29 minutes, but that's a pretty good sign for Trey. I still don't know how high he's going to be able to push this season, but that's fine, and you want to use him, use him. The Valanciunas-Nance thing is interesting. We're not rostering Nance in 12s, and I'm getting a little worried about where that heads for Valanciunas. For the Pacers, no Aaron Nesmith again, so Benedict Mathurin started, and we saw him put up some good games. He was the number 1 most added player, 36% up. And we thought, okay, let's see what happens. Has he changed his game over? Can he keep it up? Has he evolved? No. 16, 4, and 2 looks pretty good on the surface, but 36% shooting on 17 attempts, 2 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, and no free throws is actually a really bad category line. The scoring is good. The threes are solid. The rest is bad. So we're back to square one. Now, just keep holding him while Nesmith is out, but if he moves into 27 minutes a night, you're not rostering that. As for Andy Nembhard, not good either. 8-4-1 with 29 minutes. Now, the schedule this week is good for the Pacers, so maybe you want to hold through that. But he had a nice little flirtation with okay back-end value. That's fallen away. What we are getting is Ben Shepherd. Okay, 11 points, 3 threes, 2 steals, and a block. That's 2 good games out of his last 3. The problem is the one in the middle was terrible. Now, we're not only rostering him in deeper leagues, and he's getting minutes because Nesmith is out, but it is interesting. Good game from Obert Toppin. He had 16 and 6 with 2 blocks and 2 threes, and I'm just going to ignore that. That's a streamer for deeper formats, while Turner had 14 and 10. And it was a good Siakam game, 24, 11 and 5 and 2 blocks. And Halliburton still can't quite get there. 17, 3 and 13, a steal and a block. That's not bad, but he's not at that level that he was at the beginning of the season. He just really isn't there. While TJ had 8, 4 and 9. Been an excellent streamer in his limited minutes, especially when you're looking for those often hard to come by assists. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. During the season, our partners at eBay Motors are teaming up with me to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each season. Scouring through the waiver wire, we're going to find players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So, who have we got picked out for this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week? Dennis Schroeder is an interesting player. Is he good? No. But does he have a favorable schedule? Yes. Cam Thomas is out, Ben Simmons is Ben Simmons, and the Nets have 5 games next week. I don't know whether they will continue to start Schroeder over Simmons, but it's worth having a crack, especially with those 5 games next week and the uncertainty of Cam Thomas. I don't normally think that Schroeder is going to be that guy, so we're talking about short-term value, and that's totally okay at this point of the season towards the end of Week 18. We've just got to get things to happen for us right now, getting the right players to get your championship team. It's about being a perfect fit, and perfect fit is about player, it's about style, but it's also about timing, and that's where that comes in. eBay Motors also knows about perfect fits because that's what they bring. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever it is that your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply. Okay, so that was game one in the books. Time for game two. It was the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Toronto Raptors. The Mavericks 136, the Raptors 125, the final score here. Good win from Dallas. Now we know in this one, Maxi Kleber was out, so just have that ringing in your head. Kleber out, Kleber out, Kleber out, Kleber out. It's like the Winter Soldier activation code. Kleber out, 42, 3. Spacing. Small ball. Because we had Derek Lively, played 23 minutes. He had 9 and 4 with 2 steals and 5 blocks. Excellent. Lovely. He's been getting so many blocks, and that's useful, at least as a streamer. And then Dan Gafford played 25 minutes. He had 13 and 7 with a steal and a block. Is Gafford back? Well, sure, that's fine. But 25 minutes of Maxi Kleber weren't there. And we have seen what happens when Maxi Kleber is there, is that Lively doesn't play 23 minutes. Gafford doesn't play 25 minutes. In fact, Gafford doesn't play 20 minutes. So if you did drop Gafford, and you saw this game and you go, oh my God, why did I do it? Just think that it is because Kleber sat out on the second half of a back-to-back. And Kleber will be back, and I don't think that Gafford is playing that much, and I don't think Lively is playing that much. Now, Lively is bringing really interesting steal, or more importantly, block numbers. He's had a couple of multi-steal games, and that's useful. But as a must-roster guy, I don't think it's there. Doncic had 30 and 11 with 16 assists on his birthday, 48 from the field and 78 from the line, while Irving had 29 and 2 steals with 3 assists. Good games from those guys as per usual. It was also an explosion from Gattuso legend PJ Washington. He had 23 and 7 with 5 threes and 3 blocks. But we know PJ. We know what we're going to get. We're going to get 2 points on 1 of 9 shooting in the next one. That's what happens. So this is a huge game. That brings him to 155th over the last 2 weeks, playing 31 minutes a night. You cannot rely upon PJ. And if you add PJ Washington today, you do not get this game. You do not get credit for this game. Remember that. You know who PJ is. If you want to add him, all right, whatever. But understand that we have seen this time and time and time again. It happens continually. Josh Green had 5 and 7 in 31 minutes, so he didn't lose minutes with Exum coming back, but he also didn't play well. That's just a deeper league one. While Exum got 17 minutes after Jason Kidd told us he'd play 10 to 12. He had 4, 3, and 5 there. We're not rostering him, obviously. Jaden Hardy was the guy who was out of the rotation there. And Timmy Hardaway had 16, 4, and 4 on poor shooting with 4 triples. He is in the Leaky Beasley group of points and threes streamers and definitely not a must-roster guy. We didn't know whether Jakob Poeltl was going to play for the Raptors. He did, and bloody, thank God he did. 16 and 7, 6 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks on 58%. That's ridiculous. Thank you, Jakob. So that brings us on to Kelly Olynyk, who was still serviceable. 13 points, 1 3, 18 minutes, and a steal. But if Poeltl is going to play 29 minutes, if Olynyk is never going to play at the 4, then I'm not holding Kelly Olynyk in a backup role. I wanted to see if he would get minutes next to him. I wanted to see if he would push into minutes for Poeltl. I wanted to see if Poeltl was going to miss games and then Olynyk would be worth it. But those things haven't happened, so we move. Immanuel Quickley is absolutely fired up. 23rd ranked player over the last 2 weeks. 28, 5 and 9, 2 steals and 5 threes. He's on fire. It's a bit of a sell high, but he's on fire. Well, Scott Barnes, 19, 11 and 7, 3 steals and a block. That's all well and good. Remember at the start of the year where it looked like he'd fixed his three-pointer? I think over the last 20 games he's shooting 24%. And he's now down to 34% from 3. And it feels like those first 30 games were a gigantic mirage. He's still putting up good numbers, don't get me wrong. But 41% shooting here, 0 of 5 from 3, I think it was. Yeah, 0 of 5 from 3, 1 of 3 from the line. All those things the things that have stuck are the improved block rate, the improved rebound rate and assist rate. The usage is up, all that's happened. But we were seeing some of the efficiency numbers, and that has not improved. Or it's not sustainably improved. It's dropped back off. Gaz Trent played a lot of minutes. I wish he wouldn't. 11 and 4 with 2 threes. He just saw Tim Hardaway on the other side. Well, let's see which one of us can be more streamable. The answer is both of you. They're both just streamers for 3, but that meant that our man, the Prestige Penis Grade A Dick, played only 19 minutes. 7 points in those 19 minutes. He's not good enough. He remains a luxury stash. At some point, I think they will give him more minutes. When that is, I don't know. So you can't be relying upon production from him every single game. And, like, if you want deeper leagues, sure. Shallow ones, it's just luxury. Brucey Brown, 21 minutes, 5 and 8. Not good enough. That's got to be a drop to me in 12-team leagues as well.
Get that garbage out of here.
What about Rowan Barrett? 26, 5 and 6. Again, looks awesome on the surface. Never gets steals and blocks. Didn't have him here. And since moving to Toronto, yes, his field goal percentage is up, 56%. He shot 67 on his threes. He was 50% on twos, which is down from where he'd been. But he can't hit free throws at all. I think he's at like 58% as a member of the Raptors, which is terrible. Obviously, still has value, but as per usual, as per his entire career, he's a bad rankings guy for fantasy. He brings you some okay scoring. 211th over the last 2 weeks. 152nd for the season. Because there's just all these weird little deficits. Points leagues, it's all strong. Category leagues, it's all over the shop. Now, I wouldn't suggest dropping him because we've got the value in the certain areas and the usage is nice and the field goal percentage is up. But it's still, the overall package is just not as good as what you might think it is. Not much else going on there I don't think that we need to talk about. I think I talked about every bloody player on that team, but I reckon that's enough. Today's episode is also brought to you by Grammarly. All those emails and reports and presentations, they're all equally important to the collaboration that's needed to get things done. And Grammarly can help you with that. I use Grammarly all the time, and I have for years. I've got it installed on all my computers. I have it as a desktop extension into Google Chrome. It works through into Google Docs so that when I'm going to do it, I'm not using a regular spell check. Grammarly comes up. It gives me ideas on spelling, obviously. It gives me grammar checks. It gives me tone ideas. You really want it to sound this way? And you can go and use it like some AI ability there as well. Can you turn this to sound more professional, more casual? Can you expand on this? Can you a lot of different ways that you can use Grammarly to improve your writing, to get that message across in a more powerful and impactful way. Grammarly is also the gold standard of responsible AI with 14 years of experience and just about every IT certification under the sun. Grammarly is a secure AI writing partner that helps your team make their point and move faster. So make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at grammarly.com/podcast. That is grammarly.com/podcast. Easier said, done. Let's do the next game. The Memphis question marks up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Early on in this game, the old question marks gave the Wolves a little bit of a scare. We'll go through the lineup change here. We did have Jordan Goodwin come back from the dead to start the game with Luke Kennard out of the lineup, and then Karl Anthony Towns returned, and Kyle Anderson was out with what was initially called a hamstring injury and now is called a knee sprain that I think might cost him a couple more games, but we'll find out. The Wolves win it 110-101 in the end, which is obviously good to get that win. Jaren Jackson carried absolutely hard. Like 38 minutes for Jaren, 33 and 13, 3 threes, 3 steals, a block, 8 of 10 from the line, 48% from the field. He had 32 usage. His usage is through the roof. Once he hits 65 games, I reckon his season might be over. And you should just be trying to get off him, and this is a great opportunity to do it. Santi Aldama, 11 and 5, 2 steals, 2 blocks. That's great. If we were getting this from Santi all the time, we'd love it as a 12-team thing. But we're not. He's 170th over the last 2 weeks in 27 minutes a night and barely played last time out. The reason we like Jordan Goodwin is this. Now, 5 points on 13% is terrible, but he played 31 minutes. He had 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals. The problem being is he's probably only going to play half of the games moving forward. If you're in a 12-team league, daily changes, no limits, you can't do that. You can't have a guy that might play 2 games a week. If you're in a roto league, if you're in a games cap format, if you're in a deep bench format, it's great. Because once you know that he's going to start, you get great numbers. And there was no Conchard, no Kennard, and then Derrick Rose got hurt again with a back issue. But we just don't know when Goodwin is going to play. GG Jackson, last game, what did he shoot? 4%? This game, 70%, 5 of 7 from the field. Just didn't take shots. He had 14 and 3, but you'll note, no assists, no steals, no blocks. It's good for points leagues. It's not good for category leagues. I think he maintains value as a 12-team points league guy. Categories, it's very much on the border. A bit of a disappointing one from Vince Williams. He had 11, 6, and 6 with a 1-1 on 27%, but the other numbers are good. And this is why when people have asked me multiple times about Lamar Stevens, what do I think? And I say, I've seen Lamar Stevens play in Cleveland. I've seen him play in Boston. He's not very good. He had 4 points in 10 minutes. We can't trust it. They're the question marks. We're not relying upon any of this stuff. Laravia played 30 minutes last game, had 19 here. He had 5 and 5, and it was a good game from Zaire Williams, 16 and 8. At least he's moving into like 14-team league discussion. For the Wolves, their starters just played horribly to begin with. Outside of Goose, Anthony Edwards had 34, 2 and 4 on 52%. The Wizard of Noz, Naz Reid, played 26 minutes. The absence of Kyle Anderson helps, and the fact that Rudy Gobert struggled badly helped him too. He had 19 and 6 with 4 threes and 2 blocks. That's 2 good games in a row from Naz. He's obviously been terrible prior to that. But while Anderson's out, there's more value here. Towns returned, played 37 minutes, 13-11 with 3 steals on some poor efficiency, while Gobert only 27. He just really struggled early, and that's why Nas got the minutes. 8 and 8 for Gobert with 2 blocks, and Conley had 4, 5, and 7. The 7 assists are really valuable. If you're in a shallow league, an 8-team league, a 10-team league, I think Conley's droppable.
Get that garbage out of here!
You don't have to drop him, but you can get more value, I think, out of streaming Conley spots in a lot of those shallow formats. It doesn't mean he has an auto drop. The assists are really valuable. But have a look who's on your wire. Can you get that sort of value coming through? You might be able to, because his upside is incredibly low. Jaden McDaniels had 12, 2, and 3 with 3 blocks. Getting 3 blocks out of him is nice, but we don't really feel super excited about using him anywhere. And not much else there. Monte Morris had 5 points with 4 rebounds and 5 assists. He also shot 29% from the field. And he just remains a deeper league option. Let's go on to the next game, also known as the Onuralp Bitim game. Didn't think I'd be talking about Onuralp Bitim outside of comical stuff of the Bulls signing a guy playing 6 minutes for the season to a 3-year contract, or a guy they keep listing on the injury report with a nasal fracture, but that's where we're at. We had the Bulls without Alex Caruso, even though they did label him questionable. In this one, with the hamstring, it was pretty obvious he was not going to play, and he did not, and they went back to the double big lineup. The big avocado started, Andre Drummond, in place of Alex Caruso. We saw this one coming a mile away, that Drummond would be in for a good situation here because it was against Cleveland, and we already saw him play a pretty strong role against Cleveland not long ago. We got the added bonus here that this game went to double overtime. The Bulls get the win in the end, 132 to 123, the final score. On the Cleveland side of things, some interesting developments here. Karis LeVert, what a huge game. 14, 7, and 15 for Dracarys. He had 2 steals and 2 blocks. He had 3 threes. He was also really bad from the field and from the line. 1 of 2 from the line and 42% from the field. This is not what Karis LeVert usually does. He played 39 minutes here. He was excellent. They went to an incredibly short rotation. He got the boost from overtime as well, but he was getting minutes over the Winter Soldier Max Strus. Those assists on their own could be really valuable, but we have seen Karis LeVert all season be nowhere near this. But it's trending up. And when it's trending up, if you want to have a look and see if they want to rely upon him a little bit more, he's got those good counting stats. Sure, we can do that. Evan Mobley, we're a little bit worried about where the minutes were headed, but 42 of them here, 25 and 13 to steal, 4 blocks. Love that. While Jarrett Allen had 11, 4 and 4 with 2 blocks. Very disappointing. And then Darius Garland, who'd also been struggling. He had 23, 2 and 5 with 7 triples. Still didn't shoot well, but got more opportunities, which is great. But that meant someone had to lose out, and that was, unbelievably, Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell took just 13 shots. He had 18, 5, and 3. And if it wasn't for the overtime periods, he probably wouldn't have got anywhere near that. 39% shooting, not good from the line. Overall, just a bad game from Mitchell. And that happens sometimes. He had 5 turnovers to 3 assists as well. No defensive stats. Just real struggle stuff. Now, he's been awesome all season, but he's outside the top 35 over the last 2 weeks. And remember, that top 35, top 20 zone is where he had been in previous years. He'd just been unbelievably red hot. Let's hope that's not a prolonged thing. Let's hope. The Winter Soldier, Max Strus, who went bananas yesterday with a game winner and the 15 points in 2 minutes or whatever it was. He was okay. Like 11, 5, and 5 is fine, but he also played 37 minutes. He shot 31%. Again, poor shooting. That to me puts him on the fringes. It doesn't make him a must-roster guy. He's okay if you want to have him, but you don't have to have him. He'll have some good games and some bad games. It makes it tough to consider, especially when they're going to use, or they can use, LeVert the way they have been the last couple of games. For the Bulls, Drummond played 36. He had 17 and 26 with 3 blocks. And I would say nearly every other time that that's okay if you want to drop him after this game. Because we know the pattern. We know that going against Cleveland is really useful. Get the double bigs in there, that's fine. Their next game is against the Bucks and Giannis. Then it's against the Kings and Harrison Barnes at the 4. Then it's the Jazz and Taylor Hendricks. Then it's the Warriors and every small person in the world. Then it's the Clippers and their small lineups. Then it's the Mavericks and their small lineups. Then it's the Pacers and Pascal Siakam. Then it's the Clippers and their small lineups. Then it's the Wizards and their small lineups. Do you want me to keep going? I will. Then it's the Blazers and their small lineups. Then it's the Rockets and Jabari Smith. Then it's the Celtics and their small lineups. The Wizards and their small lineups. The Pacers, the Nets. And then it's the Wolves on the 31st of March. It took me a long bloody time to get to another team where it makes sense where Drummond would start. But I say all of that as a misdirect. Because if Caruso's out, what else are they going to do? Could they start Julian Phillips? Could they start Onuralp Bitim? Well, I mean, they might. But they played Bitim in overtime. So, what I am saying is that if you do have Drummond, hold. If he plays reserve minutes only against the Bucks, move on. If Caruso returns, then you can probably feel okay about moving on from Drummond. But Caruso's potential absence opens up more minutes for Drummo. Vooch was also excellent. 24, 13, and 5, and a Richie Beno. Poor shooting, but at least he got to the line. Well, maybe you wish he didn't, because he was 2 of 4 there. He's top 83. Top 83. He's exactly 83rd over the last 2 weeks. He'd been sort of struggling at periods this season. Levine's absence has bumped him up a little bit in the rankings, but yeah, that's a really great game. DeRozan, 35, 10, and 5, but just horrid field goal percentage, 31%, but excellent field goal. He got 18 of 19 from the line. Excellent free throw, sorry. And Ayo Dosunmu remains must roster. 48 minutes for him, 21, 3, and 4. Kobe White could not have shot any worse, I don't think. 25% shooting on 20 attempts. He played 50 minutes. Him and DeRozan lead the league in minutes, by the way. Shout out to Thibodeau. 14, 8, and 12 for White with a steal and a block. Yes, the field goals are absolutely crucifying you at the moment. But you need to hold him, or you could consider buying low. Now, I've mentioned his name because it's time to talk about the fact that Onuralp Bitim played 28 minutes. Shout out to all of the listeners here in Istanbul and other places in Turkey, which are actually an outsized portion of my audience. I didn't think they were, but they are. He played 28 minutes. He had 6 rebounds with 10 points and 2 threes, shot 75% on 4 attempts. So that's all well and good. They just don't have any other options. And when Caruso comes back, he's not going to play this. I would like to see them give a little bit more to Julian Phillips or Javon Carter. This just feels like a random one-out-of-the-box game for Bitim. But we at least keep half an eye on it. Phillips had 7 points in his 14 minutes with 5 rebounds. That's intriguing. But again, these are just deeper league things. And Caruso returning will have an impact on how all of these rotations end up playing out. So let's do the next one. This was a blowout. The Denver Nuggets, who had lost to the Kings, I think 3 times or twice already this season. Anyway, they hadn't beaten the Kings this year, but they ended up getting the win here in this one because the Kings were they were a little short-handed. They had no De'Aaron Fox, who did hurt his knee against the Miami Heat. He warmed up. He was seeing if he was going to be ready to go. He wasn't, so he was out, and Davion Mitchell stepped into the starting role. We all know that Davion Mitchell is not very good. The Nuggets won at 117-96. This game was 30 points at the end of 3 quarters. The big fella Chris Duarte stepped up. He had an early trip to the locker room, but came back. 26 minutes, 18 points, 4 threes, 2 blocks. That's a really, really strong game. I don't care. I've seen Duarte do it a couple of times, then he falls back out of favor. This doesn't really matter at all. He was the one that stepped up because, as we all know, Fanapants Kevin Huerter is wildly inconsistent and unreliable. 4 points, 18 minutes. We know that Mike Brown will just be like, nah, you're not playing. And when that happens, then you don't have to roster Huerter, who is 168th over the last 2 weeks. If the schedule makes sense, you use him, which I think it does. They've got one more game on Friday, but as a long-term thing, he's not there. And the same goes for the pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Who, for the second game in a row, played under 20 minutes. 7 points in 19 minutes. He had 4 rebounds, 3 assists. We're jacking him.
Get that garbage out of here.
Mitchell started, played 16 minutes, had 5, 1, and 3. He's bad. He was a top 10 pick. He's bad. So obviously, even if Fox is out, we're not rostering Davion. But Keegan Murray was able to take advantage, as we've seen many times this season. When Fox is out, Murray ramps up the usage. He had 21 and 4 with 3 threes, good shooting, good. Because he'd been struggling. He's had 2 good games in a row. Sabonis copped a whack in the head. Shot poorly, 36%. Had to have stitches. 13, 10, and 7 for him. That's one of his worst games because he's obviously been playing awesomely. And Malik Monk was fine. Didn't shoot well, 38%. 14, 5, and 5, 25 minutes. Also has been on pretty much a cold streak. I would prefer him, very obviously, over Duarte, but I'd prefer him over Barnes. I'd prefer him over Fan of Pants Kevin Huerter. We also got 13 minutes for Mason Jones, who had 1 point. Cool. For the Nuggets, the headmaster had 32 points. Jamal Murray, he had 5 triples with 6 assists on 87% shooting. He might not play tomorrow back-to-back with his leg issue. Jokic had just a casual triple-double, 14, 14, 11 with 3 steals and a block. And KCP had 16 points, 4 threes, 4 assists, and 3 steals. Great game from KCP. This is the beginning of 3 games in 4 nights for the Nuggets. So they play again Thursday, they play again Saturday. That's the perfect time to stream in KCP. Aaron Gordon only played 24 minutes, same with Michael Ponder. 17, 6, and 6 for Gordon and 14 and 5 for Porter. Again, the game was just out of hand. Keep an eye on Reggie Jackson. Maybe you stream him tomorrow. He had 5 points here. Christian Brown had 5 in 20 minutes, while Peyton Watson at least got some of the minutes back that he lost last game. 6 points with a block in those 20 minutes. Watson and Jackson would be the stream guys if the headmaster does, in fact, sit out tomorrow, which I think is a pretty sizable possibility. All right, let's go through to the final game of the day. The big fella, LeBron. He did it, but we'll talk about that in a second. Because there were some lineup changes for the Clippers. Ivica Zubac was sick, so Daniel Tice got the start. And then they moved Norman Powell out of the starting lineup and replaced him with Amir Coffey, who was replacing Paul George. Like I said, LeBron did it. This man is... I know you probably don't want to hear about it, especially if you're anti-LeBron, but... how does he do this? 116 to 112, the Lakers win over the Clippers with a comeback. Say on the road, but not really. But the man just played 37 minutes. He had 34, 6, and 8, 7 triples, 2 blocks, 62% shooting. He only took 1 free throw. He's the 7th ranked player over the last 2 weeks, LeBron. How is this possible? How does he keep doing this? He's 39 years old. How is it happening? It's ridiculous. Anthony Davis had 20 and 12 with 2 steals and 3 blocks. Reeves was solid enough. So was Russell. 13, 8, and 5 for Austin and 18, 2, and 6. There were times when Reeves was really struggling. There was times when he went crazy. There was times when Russell was terrible. Now there's times when he went crazy. And they're both sort of settled in now. And they're feeling, knock on wood, fingers crossed, there's a level of consistency with what they're bringing. I don't know how long it lasts, but it's there. Rui Hachimura also probably in the best stretch of fantasy value of his career. Now he doesn't do anything still apart from score. 17 points in 29 minutes, 2 rebounds, 0 assists. He had a steal. But he shot well. He's getting good opportunities with all these guys out. He's at least streamable. Dinwiddie is not.
Get that garbage out of here.
7 points with 6 assists in 20 minutes. Cam Reddish returned and took all of Max Christie's playing time. Well, that's not true. Christie played 5 seconds, but most of it. 20 minutes for Reddish, 5 and 3. Taurean Prince had 2 and 2 in 17 minutes, and Jackson Hayes went scoreless in his 11 for the Clippers. Kawhi did what he could, 39 minutes, 26, 7 and 6. Harden was pretty strong as well, 23, 3 and 9. And then it was another good game from Terrence Mann. That's 3 good ones in a row from the big fella. 16 and 6 with 2 assists. He shot 78% to get here. Obviously, Paul George's absence is helping. I wouldn't be rushing to add Terrence Mann. I know that this is a good game. That's ridiculously high shooting. It doesn't feel like it's anything that I want to commit to in terms of using an ad, dropping somebody. If you want to do it in a deeper league, sure. I just don't see it in 12s. Guess what we can do with Russell Westbrook?
Get that garbage out of here.
Yeah. 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Not happening. Not happening. Daniel Tice played 31 minutes actually, 9 and 5, but Zubac was only 6, so I don't think it's a long-term thing. While Norman Powell went to the bench, only 30 minutes. He had 14 points with 2 threes. Last game, he played a lot more. He's 8 points and 3s streamer, while Amir Coffey had 8 points, 2 steals, and 2 threes. That's a deeper league stream. Not much else going on there. Pretty disappointing from the Clippers to have the Lakers come back over the top of them in the end and get that victory. And that is the end of the day's games. Now, the Lakers do play tomorrow, so I think there is a risk of LeBron sitting out, so just be aware of that. He basically said as much that we're not sure whether he'll play or not. So we'll see. Keep an eye on that one. Let's go to the streams of the day, recap of that. The 10-team stream of the day was the man who was on the thumbnail wearing a very sexy do-rag, and that was the big avocado, Andre Drummond. Maybe there's a nickname in that. Do-rag legend, Andre Drummond. 17 points, 26 rebounds, and 3 blocks. It was obvious, with Caruso not going to play, and against the Cavs, that there was a big opportunity here. as long as Caruso remains out, Drummond at least has appeal, so just see what you do with that. 12-team stream was Kelly Olynyk. He was fine. 13, 2-1, but given that he's not playing next to Pirtle and Pirtle's healthy, you can move on if you need to. 14-team stream was Josh Green. 5-7, nothing particularly exciting there. And your 16-teamer was Grade A Dick, who had 7, 3, and 0 with no steals, no blocks. Disappointing after the way that he had been playing. He's worth holding in 16s. The other one's still a luxury stash. Your points league streams were Drummond. Yahoo points, he had 55.7, which is insane, obviously. And for ESPN, 54 fantasy points. Good numbers there, obviously, all around. Who was your monstrous line of the night? It's a really good question. I've got the answer. And it's the 39-year-old legend, LeBron James. 34 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists. I've definitely never given a monstrous line of the night award to someone of that age. There you go. The waiver wire line of the night. This one I also think is relatively obvious. It is Durag legend Andre Drummond. 26 rebounds, 17 points. Great opportunity, double overtime. Everything was juiced for him here. The young gun of the night, the best performer from a first or second year player in the NBA today. From a fantasy perspective, we are going to go to Dallas, and it is Derek Lively. Those defensive stats really juice that up. 9 points, 2 steals, and 5 blocks for Lively. He's useful enough when you're streaming in defensive stats, but not someone I'm looking at as a must-roster guy. And lastly, we're going to go to the dud of the night. It would have been Fanapants, Kevin Huerter, but he is rostered in too few leagues. So let's go to someone who is rostered in more of them, and that's Jonas Valanciunas. 7-minute legend, went scoreless. He had 3 rebounds, and he did nothing else. We are getting really worried about him. The problem there is that you know that as soon as someone gets hurt, his value rises. But if you get into fantasy playoffs, you might have to make those hard calls because you can't be like, well, I'll just wait until someone's out. Because that might never come, and then you're saddled with a guy who's not a top 120, not top 140 player, and that's not going to be useful enough for you. Let's take a look at the top 6 players across today's action. We start off with the top 6 players in category leagues. Number 1, of course, is LeBron James. We then go to the headmaster, Jamal Murray, followed by Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Immanuel Quickley. Your top 6 players rostered in under 50% of leagues. The big avocado, Dracaris Levert. He's playing well. Worth an ad. Understand you can drop him later. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, nice streaming value. Derek Lively, same. Obi Toppin, little one out of the blue. Not going to react too much to that. And same with Chris Duarte, 0% rostered legend. Don't think we need to do too much with that one. Your top 6 players in Yahoo points leagues today. Number 1 was Luka Doncic, Jaren Jackson, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Jokic, Andre Drummond, and the big koala himself, Evan Mobley. So, what sort of stuff do we think that we can take away from this? Yes, Andre Drummond is worth a look. Don't know what's going to happen with it, but worth a look. Caris LeVert, also worth a look. Again, there's going to be fluctuations there. I also put Zaire Williams on this list, just for like 14-team leagues. A relatively steady role. He's going to be up and down, absolutely. But just someone to keep in mind that maybe we look at. In terms of drops, I'm going to go to 2 Toronto guys. You can jack off Bruce Brown.
Get that garbage out of here!
And if you need to, you can jack off Kelly Olynyk as well.
Get that garbage out of here!
So, yeah, a lot of interesting things happening. Obviously, another great game from LeBron, which is awesome. And that will bring us to the end of today's show. Just quickly hit that thumb if you haven't done it already. Give it the old 1-2. Give it the subscribe, ring the bell. And if you can hit that link in the description and in the show notes audio-wise and give my partner a bit of a vote, just push that one over the line. That would be awesome as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for watching and for listening, everyone. See ya.